Inshallah, for this course, these 4 will do. Actually, even 2 will do. But inshallah, I want you to be grounded in this, and I need your iman to be solid. Once your belief in Allah is solid, after that it's easy. After that it's very smooth. So we start with number 1, the fitra argument. Now, before we even get into the fitra argument, just imagine for a second what a world looks like with God and what a world looks like without God. Right now, I'm not debating the existence. I'm just saying a world with God and a world without God. A world without God is a world where, for example, if you answer this particular question that if there is a God, then obviously you need to follow Him, obey Him, whatever He's asked you to do. If He is in fact the one who is the creator, sustainer and everyone, and if there is an accountability at the end, then you need to live your life in order to be able to pass the exam, right? So that's another set of rules. But if there is no God, then basically you can do pretty much whatever you like. If there is no God, just think about it for a second. If there is no God, if you're just born as an accident, if this whole universe is an accident, then basically you can do whatever you like, because this is the only life you have. And after this is nothing, is emptiness. Your body will be eaten up by worms, and that's it. That's the end of you. And so what that means, if you look at it from a philosophical perspective, people who had atheistic mindset, like for example Nietzsche, in his books, he was an atheist. But what he said was that in his books he wrote this, that atheism, if we were to accept it, I'm afraid it's going to cause a lot of chaos on this planet. If everybody realizes what atheism really is. Because the inherent belief in atheism is that there is no God, there is no accountability. There is no right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. If someone gets raped, no problem, it's survival of the fittest. If someone gets murdered, no problem, it's survival of the fittest. So basically you are here on this planet for 60 years, 50 years, 40 years, whatever. You have to enjoy as much as you can. So if there is an atheist who's working a 9 to 5, going through the daily grind, I think he's not a true atheist. Because how can you believe that there is no God and still you are now stuck in traffic jams and you're doing the work and you're listening to a boss who's scolding you? You should try to get as much money through whatever means possible and take a bike trip across the world or something. It implies that. And I can prove that. You know why? Because if you are really a sincere atheist, sincerely an atheist, you have to acknowledge the fact that there is no accountability. The only thing that you should be worried about is the police. As long as you can dodge them, as long as you can dodge the police, then you can pretty much do whatever you like. And the nations of the world, like for example, America on the dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust." But inherently they're a secular nation, which means that they don't really believe in God, or they don't really bring God into the parliament, or they don't bring God into that. Therefore, when they make legislations, Allah is not acknowledged into that legislation. For example, in the 1920s, a woman in America, in Texas for example, if she would not cover her head, in 1920s, Texas, she would be considered to be a loose woman. I mean, they would wear a full, like a skirt, and she would wear a hat, and the hat would have like a dupatta type thing hanging from the side, and they would tie it. If she would take that thing off and the hat off, she would be considered in 1920s a loose woman. Then you move on in life. In 1920s, they also got the right to vote. Women got the right to vote in the US. Up till the 1950s, black African Americans were considered like dogs. And so it would say outside the restaurants, "No dogs and niggers allowed." That's what they believed in. And now, then you had Barack Obama as the president. So people, they keep changing from time to time. 1920s, you fast forward to the 1960s and you have nudist beaches in the US as well. And so it says outside on the sign, "Clothing optional." You don't have to wear clothing. It's completely up to you. So the standards and morality keeps changing. Till 1985, homosexuality was considered to be a sin and a mental disorder. In the US, 1985. Psychologists would call it a mental disorder, and the church would call it obviously a sin. But then you had people coming in and they said, we can make laws about it and people can get married. And the main issue was that, Mr. Church Minister, God does not have to deal with the parliament. So if two people love one another, let them get married. Whatever the gender might be, who cares? Who cares if it's quote unquote unnatural and so on? It doesn't matter. If two people love one another, they should have right to get married. Okay, fair enough. You know what happened later on? Right now in the US Parliament, there are laws being discussed that have to do with zoophilia. Zoophilia is a man having a relationship with an animal. Because again the question is, Mr. Church Minister, what if a man and an animal are happy, what is your problem? What is your problem? And you know, if it was to stop at that, I would say, okay, fine, alhamdulillah. But it didn't stop at that. They are also debating right now laws in relationship with necrophilia. Necrophilia is a person having relationship with the dead.
But necrophilia is certified as a disorder now.
Yeah, but they're still debating it. They're debating the philosophical context of it. That if a person is dead, we don't believe in God, we don't believe in a soul, we don't believe in that the human body is sacred after it's dead. So if there is a person who's frustrated and he wants to have a go, then he should be able to do that. What's the problem? I'm not saying they accepted it, but they're debating it. The fact that it's on the table and it's being discussed. In an Islamic country, they would never discuss this. That are you out of your mind? Are you crazy? This person has to be buried. He has to be resurrected on the day of judgment. How on earth are you defiling a person like this? They would never discuss it, but now it's being discussed because the laws are not made by God, they are made by human beings. And so they can choose whatever. So basically, if your country has more weapons, you can go into whatever country and do whatever you like. And people can keep protesting and shouting all day long, but then you get to do whatever you get to do. Because might is right. And so this is the law of the jungle, it's the survival of the fittest. You know, we are basically animals, we are all animals basically, and social as it may be, but we're all animals at the end of the day, and at the end, the bigger animal wins. So if I have power over you, I will exert that power.